Okay. Oh, Michael, good morning. Good. And Jan has said that she's on the road, and so she wouldn't be able to make it today, but hope that I would remember to record, which I have. Jan's poetry is being featured Saturday on Baba Zoom, so that's plug for one of our members. Okay.
4:30 English time.
Yeah. Okay, any volunteers to begin? No volunteers. Well,
Sure, I will.
okay, great.
That's
I
me.
can go
Okay.
next.
Okay. And tell me when you want me to stop.
Okay, let me say a bit something short for Paula, this is her first time here. We've this is our fourth session, and it's not a very long book. It's like I think 94 pages of print and of pictures, and a number of blank pages in there. And Lyn, first he wrote about his becoming an artist and about his meeting Baba, and there was a whole lot about art, different artists and his career. And then now we're in the last section of the book, which is a long section called I think it's called The Whole Vast Enigma of Portrait Painting. So this is part 3 called Realism. This entire book is now on the Avatar Meher Baba Trust website. And I can, Paula, if you want to put your email in the chat, I'll email you the link to the whole book online.
Well, actually, I have the book.
Oh,
I have
great.
it right in front of me. Yeah, and I'm sorry I didn't know about these till now.
Sorry, I tried to get it out as widely as I could, but I'm a limited human being.
I know, that's why I didn't know about it.
Glad
I'm
you heard
limited
finally.
too. So part 3, Realism. Once, all of a sudden, infinite and formless God in his absolute divine vacuum state was prompted for no reason at all to want to see himself and to know himself. That brought about the beginning of the phenomenal realm called illusion. And it was also the beginning of God's being the sublime artist, the real painter of imagination and its manifold dreams. It was a long time before God finally painted himself into the seemingly endless painting, and that self-portrait he called Avatar, the highest of the high, the self of everything in the form of man, and he was well pleased. Art is the grand creative scheme that God prepared for himself so that he could stamp into illusion the tangible mark and sign of his reality. When Meher Baba had me sit down at his feet on that singular day, he impressed upon his disciples seated across the room how fortunate I was not to see so much of the illusion. It rather amazed me that he did not find it at all unfortunate that I, a painter, was quite apparently going blind. As I was losing my sight, there became less and less chance of my drifting towards what is referred to as realism in painting. From my youngest days as a painter, I always had a sneaking suspicion that what is called real, the actual world, is not the reality we take it to be. And this feeling suggested to me that art can be more real than what we normally in the world that we see than what we see normally in the world around us. Realism is the honest attempt to depict or portray that which appears to be real in the shimmering mirage that we call the world. Actually, the authentic realism of any artist's work is the genuine honesty and sincerity that his creative and imaginative spirit impresses into his work. Thus, at its best, the work of art can become even more real than what it represents. In the truest sense, it is the genuine experience of art that should be called realism. What has come to be called realistic in painting is usually nothing more than illusion. To represent the illusion cannot, in this sense, be called realism. It is illusionism. Plato described the realistic painting of his time as an illusion of illusion.
Oh, good one.
Do you want me to keep going or?
Might as well finish the page if you don't mind.
Okay, no. Thomas Eakins was a great American portrait painter. Among the various schools of painting, he is referred to as a realist. But I feel Eakins, don't know, to be one of the most mystical painters America has produced. That mystical quality emerged in his work as a result of the almost naive earnestness and sincerity of commitment that went into his painting. It was the honesty of purpose in wishing to portray on canvas exactly what the eye sees when looking at a particular person that gives to Eakins' paintings an almost transcendental vision, an image that surpasses all that the normal eye thinks it sees. And Eakins' portrait gives one the feeling of physical and spiritual closeness to the person portrayed. Because of this, his paintings are not illusionistic.
Okay.
Oh, shall I finish the last paragraph?
Sure, yeah, sure. Great.
Though not a realist myself, either in temperament or technique, it was definitely my intention in painting the portraits in this book to express with all honesty the genuine feeling of the real that I have derived from my contact with the person Meher Baba. That experience of his presence with the feeling of love and joy which he bestowed upon me is the underlying theme that marks the particular kind of realism of these paintings. While being inwardly concerned with the real as Meher Baba, these paintings are at the same time outwardly expressionistic. They express the particular nature of my personal response to Meher Baba's love. Jay Baba, wow.
And anyone, as usual, just break in with a question or comment anytime. Okay, let's see. The next page is blank page. Then there's a quote. Why don't you finish? Why don't you read the quote too, if you don't mind? Then we'll let you off the hook after that.
Okay. Well, it's a very nice hook to be on. Be composed in the reality of my love, for all confusion and despair is your own shadow, which will vanish when I speak the word. Meher Baba.
Baba. Okay. Finding I want to underline or save every word of this, just about.
Yeah.
There is a saying in the German language, is when you have to do something that you feel is impossible to do and you cannot understand, that you have to take a leap of faith and jump over your own shadow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, good. So
that describes exactly where I am right now with my art.
Oh,
lovely.
Great. Yeah, me too. Me too, kind of, actually. Okay, this is.
I'm not doing any at the moment.
Well, but you will probably will in the next moment as soon as you get out of here. If I know.
I don't know.
I've never known you to be stuck for long. What did you say? You've done 3,500 works in the last few years?
Oh, bless you. Yes.
Anyway. Okay. Good luck. Good luck. I hope you're not permanently dry.
No, I hope so too. Thank you.
I went through a period of just no inspiration, and I started experimenting with color, just pure, and it's been very interesting. I wrote a poem about it that I put on the Art for Baba page today on Facebook, in fact. Plug, self, and everything else. Okay. This is called It Is I. Let me smallen it up so you can see the whole painting. Wait a minute. We'll go down one more, and can we see it all? There it is.
Well, what a painting.
What I love about Ott's paintings is that it appears to be realism, but he abstracts beautifully with color and shapes, flowers, things like that, which I think is just wonderful.
Yeah. I think he talks about that in the chapter on expressionism, which may be next.
The forms in it are wonderful. I mean, it's
Yeah, the quote.
Well, I like the fact that the background expresses intent in a way. The energy.
Michael, what word did you say expresses?
His intent, like
Mm.
Baba's pose is conveying this, especially with our hands going like this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that all the energy is coming out of it.
Mm.
So that Lyn not only sees the hand, but he sees the effect of that hand in his inner eye.
Mm. The impression I get from paintings like this, and I think quite a few of Lyn's, is of what you said, but also of Baba just coming from the formless into the world of form. It's kind of amazing.
Mm.
From the abstract, into the world of forms.
I feel like he's emerging from nature, and he's, like, I'm in nature, I'm one with nature, and here I am, and then he's just sending out blessings and love to all.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Mm-hmm. He is actually, for me, in this painting, he is with his left hand, he is pulling the energy of the nature into himself, which he then with his right hand passes on to us.
Oh, wow. I love that, hearing that. I had never thought of that. Beautiful. Okay.
And it definitely looks like a dance.
Golden pillar. Like a what? Dance?
Like a dance. This is his dance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's like a golden pillar of light there too, behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Is rising.
Uh-huh. Mm.
Rising out of all of the rest of it, all of this illusion.
But it's leaving the yellow roses. So whatever it is, the energy and the love that's rising is left for us in the flowers. Where we can touch it. Literally, we can pick the flowers, touch them.
But look at Baba's simplicity in the midst of all this apparent confusion.
Yeah. Yes. And of course, glorious pink again. Love him in pink.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody like to go on with expressionism? Let me enlarge it again.
Yes, please.
I have to surprise it again. Okay. Get it really big. Is that big enough? I think that was.
No, that's better.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Shall I have a go?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh. Expressionism. Let us imagine that in the uttermost beginning, God, hang on, I've just got that's better. I'll start again. Let us imagine that in the uttermost beginning, God, from the infinite tranquility of his limitless silence, miraculously spoke. And that speaking became a limitless reverberation issuing forth billions and trillions of stellar clouds and systems. And in it all, God said, "Let there be light." That light was God's consciousness, and the light was indeed dazzling and blinding to the eye. And God, who was yet unaccustomed to his own great light, having just awakened from the absolute divine vacuum state where there was neither light nor darkness, no contrast by which to distinguish one thing from another, for all had been simply the absolute uniformity of oneness. That's amazing, isn't it? Thus it was in his most original speaking, God said, "Let the light be divided into light and darkness, consciousness and unconsciousness." And by the great dividing, God made a universe of light and shadow. And by means of contrast of light and shadow, God was then able to see the reflection of himself everywhere he looked.
This is kind of a technical point, and I almost feel like it's too intellectual to spend our time on here. But my impression was, let's see, there was just the infinite divine vacuum state, and then God had his whim that surged forth and became creation. But I didn't think, no, that's not true. I was going to say, I didn't think God had consciousness as God until he was realized until the first soul realized him and became the avatar. But this is saying that God was conscious before that. And I don't think that question is ever answered anywhere. So, but it just occurred.
But Max, since there's no time,
Yeah.
then the minute that when, which is the wrong word because there's no time, as soon as it's manifest, the end of the manifestation where he's realized is as present for God as the beginning, because God is beyond time.
Well, I suppose I can't really argue with that.
Except that there's no when, so that makes it,
Yeah. And I'm already realized too.
yeah, so it's beyond our understanding.
Yeah. Okay.
It is. I wonder if that means that there was until he became conscious in his body, that there was nothing. Is there something beyond his body? I thought there was, but according to this, there might not be.
Somewhere it says, I think it's in Bao's book, Bao Kochuri's book, The Nothing and the Everything, which is based on points Baba gave him. I believe it says there that the avatar had 52 incarnations in form before becoming realized. So there was something, and there were forms.
Yeah. But there's always God, the formless.
Yeah, that's true.
Without the awareness.
I think Ellen is correct that not only was the whole creation manifest from beginning to end, not manifest, but projected. It was also, his journey was foretold. It's like, I don't know, reading the driver's manual or reading something.
Well,
you know what the beginning and the end is, but you haven't gone through it.
Well, in Infinite Intelligence, Baba says that the whole creation is projected, but then it is realized by the thinking, and the thinking moves through it and realizes it. But the whole thing exists at the instant that is instant, which is kind of in quotes because of the time thing, that it's in that instant when it's projected, the whole thing already exists. But it's completely, he also says it's completely beyond our understanding. So these are just ways of describing.
Yeah. Okay. Lyn, this is kind of cool because Lyn loved these abstruse discussions. Yeah. And he once quoted back to him something he had said in one of these discussions, and he looked at me and he said, "Did I say that?" I would say anything.
Well, one thing, shortly after the Great Darshan, I had an experience of remembering my first human birth, which was from the angelic sphere. I didn't know that it was the angelic sphere, but it was a place that was equidistant from everything. And the angels were very happy that I was going to Earth. And I realized later on that if I told them I was going to go through great suffering and such, they just had this big grin on their faces saying, "Oh, how wonderful," because we don't get to suffer. So before I left, before I was incarnated, I stood before God, as I know him as God. And it was like being in front of a sun that was billions of years in diameter, but in that place, there was no when and there was no size. And on one hand, he was creating everything in creation, and so quickly that it was, you couldn't distinguish the forms. And on the other hand, he was destroying them, just like that painting that we saw. And in that forming of them was all the points that they would reach, their whole lives, their destiny, their purpose, the beginning, middle, and end. It was all foretold in that microsecond of creation. So, yes, the game is all foretold, but its beauty is in its telling, living it. So that's my 2 cents. Okay.
Yeah, it's worth more than that, Michael. A lot more.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful.
I'm going to be writing that story down though,
Yeah.
one of these
Good.
days.
I was going to say that's glorious. Okay, let's go on. I mean, unless somebody doesn't want to.
I'll read.
Okay.
After I clear my
I was
throat.
reading. Oh well. Somebody read.
Actually, could we read that second paragraph again that I've just read, please?
Who was reading?
I was reading.
Okay,
Inka.
go ahead. Yeah, keep going as long as you want. Then Michael. Okay.
And in it all, God said, let there be light. That light was God's consciousness, and the light was indeed dazzling and blinding to the eye of God, who was yet unaccustomed to his own great light, having just awakened from the absolute divine vacuum state, where there was neither light nor darkness, no contrast by which to distinguish one thing from another, for all had been simply and absolute uniformity of oneness. Shall I continue, or is somebody else reading?
Continue
It's
as
up to
long as
you.
you want. Somebody else.
Okay.
I can read. Do you want to keep on reading, Inka?
I'm fine to share. You read next.
Okay. Thus it was in his most original speaking, God said,
Sorry, I got to mute.
let the light be divided into light and darkness, consciousness and unconsciousness. And by that great dividing, God made a universe of light and shadow. And by means of the contrast of light and shadow, God was then able to see the reflection of himself everywhere he looked. God felt the infinite exaltation of being the creator of the reflection of himself all around him ad infinitum. And God turned in all directions, to the north and to the south, to the east and to the west. He saw nothing but himself in the vast painting of himself. But alas, God saw that it was not all really himself, but only a reflection, an illusion. Then God said to himself, this cannot be. I am not merely this vast painting, I am myself. So as to have someone in his image to eventually see himself as he really is, God put his self directly into the painting as a man. Then God as man was lost in his own painting. But he was not afraid, for within his heart, he knew that sooner or later he would find himself in the painting as himself. The great Leela, the game of hide and seek, had begun in earnest. It was like searching for the proverbial needle in the haystack.
So beautifully.
To go back to the story I just mentioned to you, when I stood before him just before I took human form, his message to me was, remember me. Very relevant to this, because I forgot about him for a long time. The substance and content of this picture book is the glint of that needle uncovered, found at last in the midst of all. And now we must hold it, treasure it, guard it, and not lose it. For it is the purpose of the painting, the aim of all searching, the meaning of the game. In that human image, we have the very needle with which to stitch into a shining raiment the fabric of our own divinity. In the vast enigma of portrait painting, expressionists focus primarily on the face and on the infinite possibilities of the expression that the features of the face can pass through. The great portrait painter, John Singer Sargent, once said, a portrait is a picture in which there is something the matter with the, with the mouth. Sargent meant by this that the mouth is the one feature which shows most vividly the changes of expression and therefore is of greatest concern to the portrait painter because it is the key to the entire picture. That is interesting because in my paintings of Meher Baba, the mouth is frequently hidden under the shadow of his mustache. In my portrayal of him in his middle years, the center of the mouth is clearly seen between the sweeping part of his mustache. It gives to the face an intense seriousness, even sternness of expression. But my portraits of him in his later years show the lips pulled together more thinly and with the mustache more closely trimmed. The corners of the mouth are more in evidence, giving a far broader range of expression. And his appearance becomes ingratiating and inviting, even when showing sternness. I was able to see that range of expression when Mani put a bright light on his face while I was in his physical presence.
I have a comment here.
Go ahead.
So often Baba's mouth is in the photographs almost entirely obscured. But his eyes are so incredibly expressive. And I was thinking about, this made me think of masks, because people say, well, you can't tell my expression at all because I've got a mask on. Well, then maybe we need to work with the eyes.
Yeah.
And maybe, it just seems like to me like an aspect of Baba's work potentially.
Yeah. Misha has a good song about that that's on his YouTube page, about how the rest of the face can be confusing, but with wearing masks, this past year, but it reveals the eyes, and so it takes us more deeply into a universal experience of God and humanity, so to speak, you could say, maybe.
Also losing fear of one another. I think. Can I just, this may be absolutely silly, but when Lyn Ott talks about Baba coming into himself, I feel there was possibly a slight surprise that it turned out to be the way he was. He wasn't quite expecting the human body, although it was recorded, I know, but I know very little about Baba, as you know, but I sort of feel there was actually, to experience the human experience was a surprise to him. Am I quite wrong?
No, no, but thank you for sharing with us.
We don't know.
I love listening to you use about it.
Yeah.
And you can use it in your art or anything you want, obviously. Okay.
Should I go on?
Yeah.
Why is it that Baba's mouth is more often hidden than are his other beautiful features? Is it not because waiting behind those lips is the fountainhead of all expression that ever was or ever will be? Poised upon that tongue, behind those sealed lips, is the word that was the beginningless beginning, and out of which the whole vast enigma of the painting of the cosmic illusion was made. On the day that he and I embraced, the day of our meeting, he held my face very close to his and looked into my eyes for a long while. It was the painter meeting the painter, and the beginning of the painter painting into me the colors of his own expression. By the time I heard of Meher Baba in 1964, expressionism was all that was left of the living virile movement in Western painting. In expressionism, real painting struggles to find a real living image. Expressionism is a form in which the raw material, i.e. color, line, mass, etc., of painting itself becomes the very subject matter of the painting, the picture. There is yet life in expressionistic painting because the elements of picture making are in themselves the potentialities for discovering the real image. We are now living at the end of the whole cycle of existence. This means that we are being compressed in time and feel squeezed by it, squeezed as if through a wringer of no time. We move faster and faster with the age of technology yet we feel that we have less and less time. Hence, more and more, we feel the need for it. But what am I to make of this? For Meher Baba told me personally, time never existed at all. Because there is no time, art becomes urgent. And that urgency creates expressionism. That expressionism gets into the mood and attitude of the picture of even the most realistic painters. This urgency causes the focus of creative expression to be concentrated in the immediacy of the raw materials of painting. Out of this desperation concerning time comes a great emergency, a transition in the evolution of human consciousness. And this emergency is the prelude to the life of the fourth dimension, the new age of intuition. This no time of time run out that we are hopelessly experiencing is a seed germinating into a new kind of spatial experience that future generations will live in. And that life will be infinitely more expanded than the spatial existence which we now know. Then time will no longer be our burden. It will be our inspiration, a fifth dimension, and it will make room for love in its fullest mobility of expression.
And what will happen to all the paintings?
Well, we'll probably run out of wall space.
Oh, I've already done that. Oh,
Me
well.
too.
Okay. Do you want to read this quote, Michael? Could you?
Yeah, sure. My wife said I should show my paintings. So I have 2 Lyn Ott paintings.
Yeah.
I am silent. My silence is not merely an observing of silence. My silence has a purpose behind it. When I break it, all will know. The breaking of my silence will be as forceful as thousands of atom bombs exploding together. Meher Baba. Out of that nothing came everything. Is everything. That's the title of the painting.
Yeah. Let me hold on. That sec there.
Nice
Wow.
that way too.
Is that going to do it? Let's see. Let me do one more. Sorry. One more reduction. Come on. Ah, okay.
Looks like he's holding back the breaking of his silence.
Okay, ready to go on? Okay.
It almost looks as if there's another hand there, but it's not there. No, I'm not ready to go on.
Okay, expand it. Let's see, 1 minute. Okay, anybody that hasn't read that would like to? I'll read. Okay, part 5, the De Kooning Enigma. The joy of awakening in the new age of consciousness will be for all humanity a triumph of expression in the fulfillment of the communication of the heart. Perhaps William de Kooning is the contemporary painter who struggles most fervently to open the pathway to that new age in the art of painting. That's interesting. I don't know if is anyone here who hasn't heard of Willem de Kooning? He's not quite as famous as some, I think. Anyway, Lyn describes his work well enough, even though there are no pictures of it. Back in the early 50s, de Kooning was at work on a series of paintings called The Woman. And it was the strong impact of this work that brought him into public prominence. These paintings were vehemently expressionistic, conveying the completely untamed aspect of the female image. In every one of those paintings, there is something definitely the matter with the mouth. In each painting, the dominant feature is a row of enlarged, terrifying white teeth, revealing some deep inner torment that de Kooning must have been working through. He released something that no one wanted to look at, a terrible image of woman. It makes me laugh to think of that those frighteningly horrible teeth, so clearly signifying the aggressiveness of the ego life, were the focal point of the paintings that made de Kooning so famous. I never liked the woman paintings, seeing them as more of a catharsis than the work of a really great painter. But being a great painter, de Kooning moved on into the broad, opulent, color-drenched paintings of his mature style. Around 1956, sorry, my own life had reached a low ebb of despondency. Painting had almost lost its meaning for me. I took a trip to New York City to visit the galleries. I walked up Fifth Avenue to the Guggenheim Museum, the old Guggenheim. And as soon as I entered, I was stopped short by a large recent acquisition. In the front room was hanging a new de Kooning, perhaps not a month off the easel. It was entitled Transformation. I was dumbfounded. The paint itself was the very subject and theme of the work of art. It seemed to me to be a self-portrait, full of anguish, torment, struggle, and triumph. Yet it had no figurative image in it at all. It was as though the life of the painter himself was the same as the life of the pigment erupting before the eye with vivid chromatic tension and thrust. I felt from the fervent desperation of the work in front of me that I was meeting and confronting not just the painting, compelling as it was, but the artist as well. It was like a mystical experience, a communion. This was obviously a new dimension of painting in which the artist and his painting were one being. There was no separation. It was not even a painting, really. It was a de Kooning.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. No, I just loved that.
Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it?
It was not even a painting, really.
Yeah,
it was a de Kooning. Yeah, great.
The effect of this experience unconsciously prepared me for the introduction of the image of the God-man into my own later paintings. I had discovered something extremely important while standing before that vibrant masterpiece. I had not dreamed until that moment that the artist could be more than the painter of the painting. So for years I came under the spell of this one painter. De Kooning's powerful expression opens a broad new path, but he seems, in the virtuosity of his talent, oblivious to where that path is leading. The tragedy in these paintings, with all their splendor, is the painter's wandering in the wilderness of his own genius for painting. He uncovered, for the sake of discovery, potentialities of painting without ever having found the real oasis of singular seeing, where there is peace and inner fulfillment in the finding of one, in having a glimpse of that eternal nature. To be great, a painting must be centered in love. Of this there can be no doubt, and de Kooning knows this. He knows it so well that in one of his paintings he scrawled out the words, "I love you." I love who? The paintings shown in this picture book are centered in love, the love of loves, the avatar. And that avatar sees to the resultant image in his own picture. My task was simply to do the work for as long as I could. Now it is done. and I am given time to reflect and meditate on all of this that is written here. My love for painting was given to me by God, but the focusing of that love was taken and given guidance by God's avatar, Meher Baba. Next quote. Let's see, a blank page. I am the one. I am the one who is always lost and found among mankind. It is your love for yourself that loses me, and it is your love for me that finds me. Love me above everything, for now, while I am in your midst, I am most easily found as I really am. Meher Baba. The balancing of the universal mind and the universal heart. This is the one that was in the meeting hall at the center for many years, I think. No, it isn't. I'm sorry. Mistake. Okay, let me.
Wow.
This is later, later than the others. This is 1978.
Ah, thank you.
I never saw that painting before.
Wait a minute. Still not.
It's extraordinary.
Let's see. Yeah, it's quite. Wait, one more time down. Wait. Oi. Okay, I think.
It's like Baba emerging from the chaos, from the creation.
And early emergence, not later on. Well, it's
Yeah,
still,
that's right. There's not much. Yeah,
still semi-formless.
not much figurative at all. Yeah. Not even
The
any.
gaseous states.
What?
The effect when you half close your eyes is amazing. It comes to life and it moves.
What does? When you say that again?
When you half close your eyes,
Oh, the paint.
look at that picture. And he seems to be looking down and he's smiling, but on the other side of his head is another face.
Oh, yeah. You know, I I see that.
Well, when I do that, I see this as waves, ocean and waves. So the foam, the spray.
Mm. Yeah.
And the face reminds me of the face of Baba in the tomb, painted by that Swiss artist. I can't remember her name.
Helen Dom. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Back up and whoops, I made it really big. Oh wait, that's a little too big. Wait a minute. Okay.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I could look at that painting for a long, long time.
Well, you have the book.
I mean, on my wall.
Oh.
We can share it. It can be on your wall and then it goes. We can all have it for a little bit.
That's okay.
I could make wall space for that.
I'd be happy with a print of it.
Yes.
I guess you could take it to the FedEx and make huge prints. I guess
So FedEx will make prints of pictures. I didn't realize.
Yeah, they have a large what do you call it? The large width printer.
Yeah.
And I used to print my paintings on their machine.
Is there copyright on it?
I'm sure
I'm sure.
yeah, there has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Lynn's
so
children have the copyright. Yeah. And
yeah. So we can't do it.
well, you can't do it legally. Sorry.
All right.
You cannot sell it.
You can't resell it. I don't know that the painter always retains the rights to his image
But
Yeah.
or her.
is FedEx, do they do a good quality reproduction, Michael?
It depends upon the DPI.
DPI is,
If it's a high dots per inch,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know.
in other words, if it has like 5,000 or 6,000 megabytes, the paintings turn out pretty well.
Yeah.
They turn out extraordinary.
Yeah.
All the textures there.
How about from an original?
Hmm?
That wouldn't have any dots per inch.
What?
Okay, thank you.
Well, all these pictures here are dots.
Yeah, no, I know.
We just don't see them.
I just have a drawing that somebody asked for a copy of, so that was why I was asking. That's for
The printer I go to in Germany, I have a printer there, and when you send them what you want printed,
Yeah.
they actually give you the size that the print that the image can manage well.
Yeah. I guess any of the websites that do, however you say it, jiggly prints could do it, you know.
Well, the challenge is getting the original photo, the image, with
Yeah.
high enough DPI to get a good print from it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
What you see on the screen is usually 72 or maybe up to 96 dots per inch, which is not enough to get a good image.
These were scanned as 300 dots, but I know that on the screen that you only get, less.
So if you could get the original scans, then you can get a pretty decent image.
Yeah, yeah. But anybody can do it. I mean, I scanned the whole book, just now, and I have it, and I'll sell them to you, Michael.
And what?
He'll sell it to you for a couple of something.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. Who wants to read? Anybody hasn't read that would like to?
I'll read a bit.
Okay.
Part 6, The Painter's Fantasy of Creation. Once, in the uttermost beginning of all that seems to be, for no reason at all, and with no forewarning whatsoever, God moved his hand, and from that first stirring trailed universes. In the beginning, when God said, "Let there be light, that I may see myself as I really am," God was amazed and dazzled at the limitless radiance of his own being.
Yeah.
And he himself was bewildered at the limitless and very brightness of that unlimited light. So God said to himself, "Let the light be fractured into a myriad of lights." And he called the myriad of lights color. And that color he shaped into the rainbow of creation. And this he called beauty. And God was pleased with and delighted by the beauty that lay all about him. In his most original state of being God, is without color, without expression, without form, and without attributes. But in his beyond state as conscious God, he loves all of the manifested attributes of himself. He loves the limitless reflection of himself as color. He loves the re-echoing of his divine expression back to himself. And he loves the limitless attributes of himself reflected before his own divine eyes. God wants but one thing: to be pleased with the reflection of his being. And especially, God loves that reflection of himself, which is color. When God said, "Let there be light," he meant, let the universe be a fountain of color from the beginningless beginning to the endless end. And from that first stirring trailed spiraling worlds of form. A thought occurs to me here. If Lyn had been a musician, he would have said that God would have made the universe in sound.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is God speaking as Lyn.
Mm-hmm.
So it was that vast, colorful phantasmagoria. So it was that the vast, colorful phantasmagoria sprang into being, weaving a hypnotic enchantment through the consciousness of its countless numbers of evolved forms of life.
May I just ask? It's
Yeah.
not a word I've ever heard before. Phantasmagoria. What does it mean?
I think like something like fantasy, but you could look up, it's not an uncommon word in America. It's not a common word, but anybody else have any synonyms, possible synonyms?
Google it.
Fantasy, I would say.
Google it.
An infinite complicated creation. Great complexity of
All right, yeah, that says it to me.
I second that motion.
okay. Man, the final one to appear from out of that vast myriad was lost in the great wilderness. Unaware that he was lost, he sat down contentedly by a bush laden with berries, picked some and began to eat until he was satisfied. Then, having nothing to do, he picked some more berries and began to squash them between his thumb and finger. And taking the purple juice that was on his fingers, he began to smear it onto a flat surface and found that he was delighted with the colorful impressions that he saw. It was his own little creation, his game, and he loved what he had made. He went to show his creation game to others, and they all loved it and encouraged him to do more with still more varieties of colors. With enthusiasm, he went searching for all sorts of bushes, discovering blueberry bushes, blackberry bushes, and raspberry bushes. He found that the fruit of each bush, while tasting uniquely delicious, also produced for his eyes pleasing variations in color. And so as to give more body to the images of his designs, he gathered earthen colors from the ground and the stones beneath his feet, and no colors were too luxuriant for his taste. Then God, gazing upon the accomplishments of this firstmost painter, said to himself, "Now let even this beauty, which is of myself, be multiplied unto itself, so as to glorify my very being." So God created battalions of colorists whom he called painters. And the painters rejoiced in color for the sake of which they, the painters, had been created. And the eye of God was delighted with their work. And the painters set out to bring even more charm into creation by refiguring the rainbow out of pools of pigment. God's most first painter discovered that God wants to see the beauty of himself reflected in a vast rainbow after a tempest, or as the moon revealed by the parting of clouds in a wind-drift sky. I'm going to turn it over to someone else.
I'll carry on. Color is the one element in painting that is simultaneously most human and most divine. It is light that makes color. The Impressionists discovered that for us, but it is color that makes a game out of what might have been drudgery. It is color that gives dimension to the flatness of impression. It is color that makes the music of the spheres. It is color that makes the heart sing endless praises to God and makes us feel that this is what it is all for. The universe, the festival of color. Color is like the original whim, the leha, I don't know that word, sorry.
It's a Persian word for the original whim, the beginning.
All right. Yeah. Existence for the leha, existing so that God can show us some small measure of his beauty. The intensity of color shows the temperature of the heart. The range of color reveals the breadth of the heart. And the organ tones of color harmony reveals the depth of the heart. There are three dimensions of color leading to a fourth dimension. There remains more variety and intensity of color than we can describe through language. We have not yet developed the language to name what we see in the fourth dimension. But I have no doubt that there is a fourth dimension of color. The color realm differs from the color that we perceive in the third dimension. And the league that would describe this color will be part of the language of intuition. I find this really exciting, that there are colors that we don't yet know. Brilliant.
Well, we see just a narrow range of the whole spectrum, right, of light.
Mm.
And there's infrared and ultraviolet, and beyond that we don't see.
No.
So, I mean, that may not be exactly what he's talking about, but it's all very fascinating.
Well, I had a thought that sound is connected to light.
Yeah.
And that the word breaking itself into light and forms is also has a sound to it.
Yeah.
Different notes, so that it creates an orchestra. So that if you were to listen to a great work of art, you could see it in color, and not with these fantasia images, which haunt me every time I hear Beethoven's Sixth Symphony, dancing hippopotamuses. But something formless like that painting of him, of Baba emerging from the chaos, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, you know, the some of you probably know this, the Russian composer whose music I don't know, Scriabin, created, I think, a musical instrument that, I mean, he was very interested in the relation of color and sound. I think he made an organ that, I don't know what it did with color, but it did something with color too. And my friend Robbie Basho was, you know, synesthetic. He heard sounds as colors, like an E or a song in the key of E would have a certain specific color. He even made a chart of it. I'll try to send that to you guys if you want.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay. Inga Robbie Basho was a Baba lover who was a member of Sufism Reoriented, who was a great musician. I'll send some links to his music too. Some may not know it. He died quite a few years ago, but he was very gifted. Okay.
I know far more about God than I knew before I came to know of the Avatar, God's personification. I know through his personal touch that he was most, I'm sorry, I can't see.
What he?
I know through his personal touch. No, I haven't got it all on now.
Is it there now?
No, Max, it's too big, darling.
All right.
That's good. Yes.
Okay.
I know far more about God than I knew when I came to know of the Avatar, God's personification. I know through his personal touch that what he most wants revealed in painting is the fervor of the heart. I know what he wants to hear, his very own truth resounding back to him. God wants to be reassured that we have understood and appreciated just a little of his truth and beauty. And that is why there have been legions of painters to help fulfill that part of God's longing. And it is also why color, being divine reflection, is everywhere in the life of man. For that life gives God his pleasure when he becomes our happiness. And that happiness, the art of painting, portrays to God the pleasure and sorry, my dog's trying to jump up on my lap. I'm not having that. In that happiness, the art of painting portrays to God the charm and splendor of his creation. My own happiness has come out of my efforts to please the beloved by opening the floodgates of color into my own paintings of him. Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Your dog was just illustrating what was being described in the book about happiness.
Yes. Yeah, they've just had their supper.
That's a lot of blank pages. Oh, somebody gets a long quote to read.
Well, we have a page to go. We have a whole page.
Was there printing on that page?
You skipped a
sorry.
page.
No, that was, see, that was the last part.
Well, page 97. Look at page 97.
Okay, just a second. Wait, this is 96. I don't see any print on 97. Did we not
My book has
scan it properly, or?
I didn't scan it properly because I have page 97 in my book.
Oh my gosh, well, that's good. I'll let Frank Boys know.
So this is truly a mystic mystery.
Yeah.
Let's see, 97. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay, yeah, it's a whole page. Wow. That's weird. Let me take a quick look and see if it's after the. No, we missed it. Wow. Well, that's great to know. Okay, go ahead if you want to read it, Ellen. If you get tired, I can take over, or somebody else can.
I'll start. The paintings pictured in this book take extreme freedom of artistic license in the use of color to portray the image of the God-man, Meher Baba. If it were not for color, there would be no pictures here at all, for I would have had nothing out of which to make any paintings whatsoever. I, the painter, exist because of color. Color is because of light. Light is because of the Creator. The Creator is because of himself. And that self is beauty itself. Line in painting is the vehicle of decision, the establishment of things in their correct order and arrangement. But color is the full flood, the tide of oceanic ebb and flow. It is the great explosion that makes picture making into painting, and painting into the real picture, the thing of beauty shining in the sun. I have often thought, since this is interesting because I've been drawing, and the woman I've been working with has been urging me to go to painting, and I've been going, no, I'm going to stick with drawing. So it's really very interesting to me to read this. I have often thought, since my meeting with Meher Baba, that when the avatar, who is beauty itself, descends to our level, he should be painted in a raiment of colors and tones so dazzling to the eye that even the angels would rejoice.
Yeah.
I have needed the talent of a Gainsborough to have painted him as he ought to be painted.
Would it?
Something, Max?
No, you just missed one word. I'm sorry. I try not to correct.
I would have needed, I would have needed the talent of a Gainsborough. Was that it, or I missed it?
Yeah, that's all.
I would have needed the talent of a Gainsborough to have painted him as he ought to be painted. Great painters have lived, produced monumental achievements, and died. But who has had a chance before now to paint the living avatar? The whole of Western painting has had its shining day between two avataric advents, in which the portrayal of the world's savior has been left to the imagination of painters seeking to express their love for God, but who had not seen him in physical form. The face of Meher Baba, the one unveiled as the avatar of the age, is not subject to the interpretation or the imagination of a painter who would paint him in this time, for we have seen him.
It's interesting. There was painting when other avatars lived, but I guess that just the tradition of sitting for portraits did not exist. Anyway, okay.
In the sunset of this Western age in 1965, Baba held between his hands my face close to his for what seemed a very long time. Then, still holding me close, Baba asked me, "Can you see my face?" And I replied softly, "Not very well, Baba." I said it almost apologetically, feeling somehow that I was letting him down, disappointing him. I had come all the way to India to find that I had nothing to give. Then, in the next moment, he said, "Baba wants you to bow down to his feet." I set my head upon the resting place of creation, and all was his. So it happened that the painter became a pilgrim.
Oh, God.
Man has no real work. He is, at best, a mere pilgrim on his way to the beloved. His only task is the quest for the face of God. All real work is done by the Father, the creator of all that is. Man makes his work as the imitation of the Creator. This imitation becomes the reflection of the Creator. Being the reflection, it pleases the Creator, and that act of pleasing is called art.
Okay, let's go back to the quotes.
Complete color change in the next picture.
Yeah.
Doesn't say what year that. Oh, there it does at the bottom.
Oh, yeah. We still have the quote.
Someone else want to read it?
I'll read it. Hold fast to me so that I will take you where I go. Otherwise you will be lost. I am the emperor. If you belong to me, you will have access to the infinite treasure that is mine. But if instead you go after the guards and servants of the palace, the saints and sadhus, it is sheer folly on your part. I suffer physically and mentally. My physical suffering can be seen. My mental suffering is much more intense than the physical, and is due to the anti-God element that is at its height, and the universal prevalence of hypocrisy, especially of those who profess themselves to be saints and spiritual personalities. I suffer spiritually because, although in me I am free, in you I see and feel myself bound by your ignorance, and so I suffer infinitely. In no previous avataric period have I disclosed these secrets, because the time was not ripe for it then. At present, science has advanced by leaps and bounds. An anti-God element is at its maximum. Blessed is he who holds fast to my Dhamma. Meher Baba. For the fiery free life.
So Max, can I ask you to be aware and not drop your voice at the end of a sentence?
Okay.
Because it's just, the reading is really very good, and then I'm struggling to hear the word, okay?
Do you want me to go back and read that again?
No, it's all right, because I read it.
That's
just
right.
a little,
okay, good.
And a little feedback from each other.
Yeah, if I just speak up again if need be. Well, although we're almost done with the book, but.
By the way, the Romans were into portraiture.
Yeah.
And that was during Christ's time. I don't know. Maybe there is a portrait of Christ somewhere.
Somewhere. It'll be discovered sometime. I love this one. I'm sure I'm the only one.
Seeing almost a face over Baba's heart.
He's wearing a Baba button. I mean, it almost looks like
a big one.
Oh, I don't see the big one. Let's see. Okay. I think I see what you mean. Faces in Baba things, yeah. And I was watching Charles Haynes give a presentation and Christopher give a presentation about the book they did about Norina Machiavelli, and they showed a picture of a tree. I think maybe Norina was under the tree. I don't even know if Baba was under it. He may have been. But I mean, I started seeing Baba's face in the tree, and then I just saw Baba's face in every single part of the tree. It's a little off topic. Okay.
You had to be there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's off topic at all, because I think because in this painting here, I think his face and his eyes are particularly beautiful, and they are arresting, they're commanding, they're loving, and they're full of compassion. It's just an amazing painting. I'll have this one. All right, Michael?
Oh, sure with me, yeah. Fine.
Yeah, okay then.
And this shows much more of his mouth than some of the others do.
Yeah.
Right, yes, it does. It's lovely.
And there's a little tilt of the head too.
This time there is not an open hand. This time it's his eyes. Hey, puppy.
Well, why don't we save, we can have one more session. We have like 2 chapters to read and then more discussion we can have.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Wish there was a sequel to this book, if anybody can think of one. You know.
I think perhaps maybe we could have a session of if anybody wants to share some of their work with us. It would be lovely to see another time.
Yeah, cool. That's a nice idea. Just talk about it. Yeah. And let's see, Paul, I did get your email written down, then I'll send you. I don't know, but I'll send you some stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh yeah, the link about the book and some other things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, have a good week, everybody, and
Thank you for this, Jay
thank
Baba.
you.
May you all have God realization tomorrow.
Thank you.
I'm enjoying all the colors. I'll stick around for a while.
Yeah, oh, that's nice. I mean,